listening wherever in the world you currently are. We're up with our next episode of Careers in the Cloud, and this one is a very, very special personally to me. For those who don't know. But yeah, we're here with, of course, Hemi and our very special guest, Richard Stoltz, who I am fully confident is very well known across the Salesforce and Salesforce Industries area. Has been there for a very, very long time, and we've got very exciting questions to discuss today. And I think it'll be a very special episode, and I'm so keen about it.
One. The special one.
100%.
Nick wanted to do this one with Richard for so long. She was like, Hemi, we need to sit down with Richard. His story is incredible. And it was only until I started to get to know Richard and we've worked with him a little bit in the past that we started to realize that, like everyone, there's more than meets the eye, right? And you can never judge a book by its cover, but it's an inspiring story. It's for someone or anyone watching today that feels that they don't know what they're doing right now and they don't know where they're going to go in life. I think when you speak to or hear the story of Richard, you'll understand that you can achieve it and you can become someone successful and be renowned in the ecosystem of Salesforce, like Nikki said. So Rich, great to have you here. First of all, how are you? How are you feeling?
You're flattering me, guys. Great to be here. Thank you very much. Amazing to see you. I miss you, as we are not working together anymore, but as always, it's always nice to see you, to hear you. It's always a great time speaking with you. We always have a good vibe. You're very fun. You're very funny, guys, as I am as well. So let's roll it on. Let's see where it goes. Let's be honest. Let's discuss on stuff that usually is not being discussed across the IT people. So yeah, let's do that. Happy to be here.
You're a realist, and that's why we love you, Rich. I think for those that don't know, Richard is someone who worked his way up, and you'll find out more about his career within Salesforce, especially within Salesforce Industries. We had the pleasure of working with him. You know, he's someone that I think has a massive following. He's got a lot of connections. So I think the biggest thing for those watching, Rich, right, who don't know you like me and Nikki know you, and those that are in the SFI and Salesforce world, how did you get into Salesforce firstly, and what was your life like? What was your life like before Salesforce?
So firstly, thank you. I appreciate you presenting me like that. Obviously, it's not as cool as it sounds from Hemis, but yeah,
He's too
I'm trying
humble,
to do
guys.
my
He's too
best.
humble.
Yeah,
Humble.
need to remain humble as it's. I'm yet to be there, as Hemi has described, but we are going there. Regarding myself, so yeah, hey everyone, who knows me, who doesn't. I am Richard Stoltz, based in Austria right now, originally from Latvia. I started working in Salesforce for around 7 years ago. My background is pretty much IT. I studied the computer science. My original background and original intention with IT was programming, actually. So I learned Java. I learned programming languages. I didn't know at that time when I was studying what is the Salesforce, obviously. I knew what is CRM because by very big accident, I had to prepare a presentation in front of audience about the CRM topic. And when I started it, I didn't know what the hell that is. And even when I finished the topic, I didn't know what Salesforce is. So that's funny how I ended up here. So been with Salesforce for around 7 years. But the most interesting part is that I've been with Velocity SFI currently for around 5, maybe more than 5 years already. Started as one of the first people in Europe. I think we can disclose some of the projects with not the entire names, but everyone in Velocity community knows probably Finland telco projects, Finland big telco companies. At that time, also some Italian media projects were there. So we have started as one of the first people in Finnish telco. And at that time, I remember it took me and some other colleagues of mine a week to configure an OmniScript and to make it work. We were really proud about that. These days, everyone is an expert of OmniScript. It's probably the most common area in sales in Velocity. But yeah, having all kinds of knowledge of Velocity SFI. I'm personally always been a technical hands-on guy. Know pretty much every possible area of Velocity, everything you can imagine, CPQ, Omni Studio, EPC, order management, whatever else.
Just a
Have
pure machine, aren't
hands-on
you,
on
Rich?
all of
Just
that. Yeah.
you were one of the original ambassadors, Rich. If I look at SFI, right, and for
Oh,
those that don't know
yeah.
Velocity, it's grown to the point where you see so many crossover into the ecosystem, but to see that you were working with it at such an early stage and to where it is now as a product, to where Salesforce is, the fact that Velocity got acquired for 1.3 billion. The one thing that was interesting when I got to know you, and I think Nikki got to know you as a person, is your background was never really IT. If I could just go back slightly, right, to a young Rich when he was probably in school or, growing up in Latvia, can you tell me and the audience and Nikki, what was your life like back then and just kind of your environment, your surroundings and, you as a person?
Absolutely. Like, if I knew myself 15, 10 years after, at that time when I was at school, I would never believe that it would be me. But before touching on that subject, you were exactly right, by the way, saying that we were ambassadors for Velocity. When it just started, when Velocity wasn't capable of a lot of things, we, together with some of my other colleagues, people may also know, shout out to Artem Slivenskis, we already started to think that uh, it's good to know Salesforce, but it's also good to know some frameworks. And we found that Velocity might be a good framework to start focusing on. And we became an ambassadors in the company that we were in, Accenture Latvia. We were really promoting Velocity across all the Salesforce people. We were going to different meetings with non-IT people. Artyom was going to schools, for example, as far as I know. We were trying to promote Velocity across Java and programmers, people saying them, not only Velocity, but the Salesforce as well, saying them what are the benefits and so forth. So we were really promoting hard usage of Velocity framework. We never knew that it will grow like that. We were hoping so. We switched into it, and I will start speaking about myself from this point. I really switched into the Velocity framework 5, 6 years ago. Since that moment, I was deliberately focusing on it. Every single project that I was looking for, I was deliberately looking for Velocity, and it worked out. You see that Velocity has grown a lot. This acquisition of Velocity by Salesforce, it played a big role, and we have all benefited from that. And right now, I'm just happy to see that so many European projects are using Velocity. And I'm really happy about that because those 5, 6 years ago, I was promoting hell out of it. And now I'm just happy where it came.
I find it
That's
amazing,
about
Rich,
that.
as well, right? Like, I think with Velocity, just touching that before you go into your life, it's amazing that you saw it at a time where it was still so niche. It was a startup. I remember when I started working with them and they just opened in London, nobody even knew what it was. And I was going out to people in the
Yeah,
ecosystem
yeah.
like, guys, do you want to work with Velocity? And they were like, what's Velocity? We'd rather work with Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, the basics of core Salesforce. And you took a gamble in many ways. You took a risk. You
Yes,
embedded
yes.
yourself into it, studied it, tried to get more people into it, and they probably wouldn't, some of them wouldn't even listen to you probably back then. They were probably like, no, we're happy with Java. And now
Exactly.
to
And
see
there
that,
was
and
there
now
was
to
some
see where it
bias as
is.
well. There was some bias like, hey, why the hell you would need this Velocity? We will just keep with Salesforce core. And there was bias like that, and people just wouldn't want to switch learning the framework that no one has had high hopes for until knowing more and more about that. But I was always seeing that projects were buying Velocity licenses together with Salesforce. Every single European project that did it, I was always happy about that. By the way, the same risk and gamble I took when I switched from programming to Salesforce, I just had that wild thought that, hey, maybe I don't want to have my entire life sitting in front of code, programming, not seeing the daylight, just kidding. And being a very technical programmer guy, I thought that maybe that's not the person who I want to be. That's not the stuff that I want to do my entire life. I saw that Salesforce and CRM is a very nice perspective to work with, especially that Salesforce, at that moment, it wasn't the number one, I believe, but now it is number one, fortunately. And we know that even back then, so many large companies across entire world started switching, transitioning to Salesforce. So we could know that for a long time to come, there will be projects, there will be clients, and there will be demand and work. Without exaggerating, I was the worst scholar, the worst student, probably in the entire grade of mine in my school. I always had the the worst marks. I always had the worst issues happening. My teachers were always calling my mom, my father. They were always called to school, so I was really the bad kid. I wasn't studying, wasn't learning. I had some discipline and I had respect to teachers always, but I just couldn't make myself learn, study, and do anything. I just was having a lot of friends. I started to party late in the school, uh, doing sports and all that kinds of stuff, and I just wasn't learning and studying.
When you think of architects or people within IT who are some of the top people like yourself within SFI and other industries, you never know where they came from, right? And the fact that
Yeah,
you had that creative side, and you touched upon one thing which we can talk about later, but the soft skills and the confidence that it gave you to then maneuver yourself into a world which you never knew. Rich, you have done so much, and we'll touch on that, and Nikki can touch on that as well. What do you think it was that sparked the flame that changed your life to come from, a poor background in a way where, I relate to that single mum, father not around, limited options because you didn't get the actual qualifications out of school that you should have got. What was it that clicked in your mind that made you turn your life around?
there definitely was that point. At one point in my life, I won't even specify a year, I got sick pretty bad with one of the bad diseases. I'm all good right now, so don't worry. But I got so sick that I couldn't even, for example, leave home. I had rehabilitation and that stuff. It was quite bad. I had depression. I took antidepressants and all that stuff. And I started to rearrange my thoughts about the life and where is it all going to? Do I really want to be um, just drinking, hanging out with friends, doing music? Which is not very promising in Latvia, as you can imagine. And we also weren't just, we were not fancy band. We were just underground hip hop band. You can imagine that probably, Hemi. So at one moment, I don't know why, but I started to think that I need to start learning, growing myself as a person, um, just putting my shit together, my thoughts, and thinking of the future and thinking what will happen next in my life and so forth. So all started with just reading books, but I decided that I don't want to read just usual books and stuff. I started to read philosophy. This was Friedrich Nietzsche, Arthur Schopenhauer, all those OGs of philosophy. Um, I this probably like young maximalism. I don't know if there's that term in English, but obviously I wasn't like a philosopher or anything like that. But I started doing something. I started reading, started to learn stuff, started to think about items. I stopped wasting time on just fun things. I started even in my free time to entertain myself with something that makes me learn, whether it is the YouTube videos and YouTube creators, whether it is some kind of movies. I started to watch movies and TV shows exclusively in English because at that moment I didn't know English whatsoever because I wasn't studying at school, as you remember. So I started really changing everything that about my life. And my English started to come up better. My thoughts started to come together. I started to feel that I'm growing personally. An opportunity came. One of our family relatives gave us 3,000 euros. It was a crazy amount of money at that moment. And I decided to, and mother decided to spend a good amount on covering debts and the other amount just on myself. That's how good my mother is. So she bought me a computer, and the good one, something that I wanted. And we decided to put me into some university or institute. I took computer science by accident. I didn't know what is programming at that moment. So I wasn't prepared for that. I just took computer science because I wanted to sit in front of a computer and make my money like that. And very soon, when I started to go there, I realized how hard it is when you actually, for the first time in your life, have to study. By some accident, programming came easy for me. I was very good at programming. We started C# languages, C++, and all that stuff. It was easy for me, but mathematics was the hardest part. And I started to truly believe that whenever people say that you don't need mathematics for your life, that might be right on one part. The other part is that whenever you learn it and that when you can comprehend it entirely, it tells and it makes you be the person who can learn very fast anything technical when it comes to technical stuff. So yeah, as I said, after first year, I got that grant and they started paying for my studies. So I was very happy. You cannot imagine how proud I was that
How
being
proud your
from
mum must have been as well, Rich. Like
yes, yes, being
to
from
go from like basically college dropout to her
yes,
son,
exactly.
she invested the
I
last money she
became
had in me.
one of the best students at my university grades. I had very good marks. In the programming, I was one of the best. At mathematics, I wasn't the best. There were very genius people. One of them is I'm still friends with, who was smarter than most of the teachers, by the way. And I was hanging out with him. That became my first uh, circle of friends, like that mathematic genius and my current friend as well. He's still staying in Latvia, by the way, doing Java. So I got that grant. They started paying for my studies. I understood that I can be successful. I can successfully learn, and afterwards I can successfully work. As being one of the best, I already got the offer to work at my second grade already at one of the companies, but as a tester. And I thought I need money very bad because I never had an opportunity to get money during my life other than that construction work in the childhood. I decided that I need to work, but make rational decision. Do I want to stay and bind myself with testing um, area and industry, or I actually want to chase my wish to work as a programmer? I started to think where I want to work. And even already at the university, when I was there, we had a presentation from the CEO of Accenture Latvia, Maxims Yegorovs. He's very well known right now. He's right now, I believe, is one of the main people in the entire Accenture Baltics. And I liked him so much that I thought, wow, how cool would it be eventually to work at that company? And that was the case. I started working at Accenture years after as an intern. And I got a proposal. Richard, do you want to stay with Java? Because that's what I started as an intern, as like preparing boot camp for Accenture. Accenture Latvia had that so-called boot camp for all the new uh, IT people in IT world. They were preparing them for the real work. And I was thinking that I will be working in Java. I still didn't know anything about Salesforce. And at the end of that boot camp, there were 40 applications for 10 places in the boot camp, and only 3 people after the boot camp was able to apply for an internship at actual Accenture. I was one of those, and I got a proposal. Hey, Richard, do you want to stay with Java, stay programming, or we have that new interesting capability called Salesforce. We are giving you some time to think, couple of days. Please make your decision. I went home, I started Googling, watched some YouTube videos about Salesforce, and I really started really evaluating everything. Do I really want to be a programmer anymore? Yeah, I know that I can be a successful programmer. Programming is very easy for me, but maybe I want something else. And I thought that Salesforce might be the case, and I took that offer. My friends made fun of me because, hey, Richard, what the hell, man? We were studying that hard so that you are switching from programming to something else where programming may not be required on the
It's a
most
big
part.
risk though, man. It's a big risk
Yes,
because
it
we talk
was.
about Salesforce now as this
It was. It
huge
was.
beast that it is, but back then you're speaking to people who are like, "What's Salesforce, Rich?
Yeah,
You think this is
exactly.
going to pay off?"
Exactly. And when I just started, I was earning as an intern 300 euros a month. I was already happy about that because you understood that I was a guy and a kid without money at all. And then the successful interns in Accenture would get a proposal to work as a full-time employee. And I got that. I was so proud and so happy that I can finally say that in my life, I got into an actual position in a great company as a IT developer. I was so proud you could not imagine. I was earning still very small amount of money when you would think about current Salesforce market of architects, right? But I was so proud and it was such a great achievement for myself. All these years, right from the moment when I started to think that I need to step up my brain game and it has all paid off at that moment. Mother was proud, all entire family, like that kid who was the worst in almost entire school got to work as a programmer within 3 years. And it was my goal, by the way. I was always setting goals, even when I started in Accenture, goals within projects, goals within achievements, within recognition. I grown into a middle developer, then into a senior developer within 3 years. I was already very proud of that. And then I got this um, offer from outside, from Austria, to work as a contractor. And I thought for 2 months, should I do that? Should I relocate from Latvia to Austria to start working as a contractor? I decided to do so. And that moment was the best decision in my entire life. And shout out to Capgemini UK. They did something that was another great milestone of mine. I joined Capgemini UK as a senior developer consultant for Velocity. And at one moment, I got a call from one of the managers saying, "Hey, Richard, we are starting a new project. We are assigning you as an end-to-end architect. We know that you are the one of the best people to do that role. So we trust in you. Do not fuck it up." um, um, and I
And you
was very
didn't,
proud
and you
of that.
didn't, man. You delivered,
Well,
right?
it was very complex and difficult project. I had to work for a lot of hours. It was one of the hardest parts of my career. The project got delivered shortly after because my services were not needed anymore because the design was done. The main part was done. And I got approached by you guys, by Nikki. I was evaluating some more opportunities, but this proposal from you guys, from Nikki, the passion of yours, speaking to both of you, because when I started to think and evaluate, even though Nikki was the first who approached me, then uh, she plugged you in as well. So I got to know you guys. It was very great. And yeah, as you know, I decided to work at Salesforce. It was amazing. It was very great experience. I loved everything there, the culture, everything. But and your attitude. And I love what you are doing, guys, for the community. I have subscribed for most of European, and I think pretty much every European recruitment agency, right? But I think that you are the only one, guys, who are doing stuff that you are doing. How you are promoting everything.
It's all Nikki, dude. Nikki, you've been quiet. You need to come into
What
this.
are you doing for the community,
us together.
guys? Yeah, what are you doing for the community, guys? It's all respect. So really great job, and I appreciate the hell out of working with you. Working at Salesforce, great company, great culture. But you know, we are contractors. We are not always staying at one place. There are multiple variables that decide what are you doing, where are you staying, where not. Especially when you're already an architect, it might be costly for something, for projects, for clients, and so forth. So, yeah, I moved on. Now I'm here with NTT. Amazing place again. I'm happy that I'm here. And it happened to be that every place, every change, every switch of job that I did, I was always happy and I never regret of any switch that I did. So
Nick brought us together. She vouched for you from the minute. I remember the moment that she actually spoke to you and she was like, Hemi, he would be great for this. And getting to know you, obviously, through Nikki was a pleasure. But Nick, I know, wanted to ask you a few things personally because I know that she's been a fan of yours from day one, before I even knew who Richard was. And I remember seeing you on LinkedIn, but never got a chance to conversate with you. But Nick, obviously, you know, amazing guy, man. What a story.
Yeah,
What a story.
100%. It's like, when you talked about your experience, and obviously I didn't know all of that before we actually like had some type of rapport building. It's just, it's like a complete 360 change of your life within like last 7 years. That's amazing. And I want to say
yeah,
really
yeah.
inspiring to everyone literally like watching and hearing out your story. That's amazing. You obviously said that you've been lucky enough to always have like a good project for yourself, surrounded by great people. So how are you finding so far at this point the market within industries around EMEA wise?
So it's still in a great demand, especially for hands-on technical practitioners and guys, experts in those main areas in Velocity, which is CPQ, your APIs, your interfaces for different kinds of CPQ, EPC, product modeling, order management, especially Omni Studio. All that is in a very high demand. I think if you are, whoever is watching, if you are a technical specialist in any of those areas, you should know that you are in a great demand still, at least across Europe, because I know mostly the European market, a bit of a Canadian because I have a friend there. But it is still a great demand. It is more complicated for architects, for sure, but the technical hands-on guys is definitely what this market needs. And one other good thing, and a lot of your colleagues are promoting this, is that it's very easy to enter the Salesforce world. It's easy to enter the Velocity world. You will obviously need to show interest, to spend time and effort learning, studying as your prior upfront practice, but it's easy to get here. And if you will prove that you can learn and that you can do stuff, you will not even need probably to program a lot. It's easy to get here, and there is still a big demand. And I just hope that the demand will remain. I know that all of your major European companies, they are using Salesforce. A lot of companies are using Velocity. So the market just grows in terms of companies. Obviously, the talent also grows because we are getting a lot of Velocity experts right now. 5 years ago, it wasn't like that. You can count by the fingers of all your hands and legs probably how many people you had with Velocity in Europe. Right now, there is a lot more, but it's great to be here. It's a great framework to focus on. And altogether, having worked at so many places and especially in Salesforce itself, I think it's like amazing place to be. And if whoever is watching, if you're still not a contractor and if you're thinking, I know there might be difficulties with visa for foreign countries outside of Europe and so forth, but still, if you're still an internal employee somewhere, and if you have that free room at your life that you can risk some stability of yours to put yourself into some a bit more unstable and a bit more demanding environment, it's a great way to do so is to become a contractor if you're not yet, or and Velocity and Salesforce market is a great place to be there.
I was going to say what you said, Rich. I feel like everyone's in it now. I remember when I got into it like 5, 6 years ago, and I was the only recruiter, and now I just see every agent is like velocity. We need velocity. We need velocity, which is cool. I feel like I was early in the wave thanks to many people at Velocity, you know, the VJ Suits, people like that. Nick had one really cool question because, you know, for those that don't know Nick, she works with candidates like Richard all across Europe. And I think the biggest thing that she's helping with, along with the rest of the team, is interviews. Nick, I don't know if you want to expand on that because I feel it's an important area within
100%.
tech.
100%. Obviously, for those who know you well, Richard, I think they seen some big names on your life experience so far, and I'm sure that more famous big companies yet to come. But talk us through what is your strategy, or perhaps a secret, or some tips and tricks when it comes to actually passing an interview, and what would you recommend to anyone in the ecosystem who might be, you know, a little bit struggling with that?
Yeah, sure. So firstly, I'm quite a lucky person. Maybe it's luck, maybe it's also the commitment, the understanding of your own strengths, the confidence in yourself. But myself, all the interviews that I had, even evaluating multiple offers at once, I have passed all of them successfully. Always. It was always the case that I haven't failed, even nearly failed a single interview in my entire career. A big part of that is confidence. Another big part, obviously, is your knowledge, your experience. And so, first of all, you need to gain confidence in your knowledge. You need to spend time learning. You need to be lucky to be in projects where you grow your personal skill set. Obviously, it's not just luck. You need to be um, uh, you need to be right, and you need to always evaluate correctly your decisions, your place where you're going, your initiations, the stuff that you work on. Everything plays a role, but in the end of the day, it's all about your knowledge, confidence, and managing of your and the other side's expectations. And that was a part as an interviewee, but as an interviewer, I just want people to be successful. Whenever I ask a question, I hope that he will answer that. I hope that he will be able to improvise, that he will be able to give me some insights from his head, some random, wild, cool thoughts on some technical topics, so that I understand that the person didn't just study it by head some important uh, popular topics that you can Google always, but I want that people understand what they're speaking about, that they can easily flow with their thoughts without thinking too much, but just saying how they are looking at specific solution, situation, question, and so forth. That's what everyone is looking for. Um, that's what is best to provide to your other side when you are participating in the interview. So it's not, it might sound simple sometimes how to get here in this world, but it will always come with demand of your learning and your knowledge. So you always need to learn.
Great advice, Rich. I think look, if we look at, your journey and, we've learned a lot about you, and I hope people watching take inspiration. I think a lot of the things that you've been through in life and you've learned from a kid to the fact that where you are now, because if you think about the beatboxing, people are looking at it like he was a beatboxer, but people won't understand coming from media or being on stage in front of 100 or even 10 or thousands, how intimidating and nerve-wracking that can be, but what it does for your soft skills, for your confidence, for your self-esteem. I think a lot of it in interviews is confidence. I think there's great people who we speak to every day who you can have normal conversations with, and then when they go in front of someone like you, they seem to diminish in character. So I think, look, your honesty today, everything that you've told us about, being someone who was permanent, in a comfortable position, working for the biggest partner in Salesforce. For those people that don't know, Accenture has been the biggest and still is the biggest, and you left a permanent role, which was like your lottery ticket in so many ways from where you came from. And then you decided to take another risk, and then you went contracting to the point where now you are working on some of the biggest telco projects across EMEA, mate, testament to you and everything you've been through. The bit that we like to end this with, Rich, and this is just, look, quick fire. I don't want you to think too much. And I know that's hard because you seem like a very calculated, sharp, out thoughtful man. This is basically just a quick fire round for people to get to know you, get to know, Rich a little bit more away from the screen, away from the SFI world, away from being an architect. So look, don't think, just speak. I have to start it with probably something that, just resonates because of everything you told us. Your top favorite hip hop song that you still listen to this
Song?
day. Yeah, like your top hip hop album, song, artist, someone that you would still go to this day that gives you that motivation and that, that little boost.
I may not always listen it, but it always pops up to my head. Shook Ones.
Mob Deep.
Yep. I'm glad that you know that. And actually a lot of songs from Wu-Tang, from Method Man. So a lot of that stuff.
He's still with it. He's still with the culture.
Some Russian music as well, but I mostly preferred your American hip hop bands.
Another one, favorite destination in the world, Rich, that you visited or you haven't visited yet that is on Richard's bucket list.
Favorite one that I have visited is Austria, where I live right now. I love it. I love the place. I love to be here. I just love it. Where I want to travel, Dubai. It's a cliche. It's a fancy place, but still, I want to go there. I'd like to visit London. Never been there, and I have a lot of friends there, and I have you guys there, and a lot of friends of mine, even back from school, and I still never been there.
We got to do a London trip. We got to do a London trip soon. Last question: when you're not working crazy hard, and you did mention, about extra study and stuff, which we don't have to go into, but what do you do to de-stress? Like, a lot of people are suffering from mental health. We touched upon, depression. You were so honest in talking about that, and there's so many that shy away from it, especially men who feel too proud or maybe just they're not comfortable. What do you do to relax when things get on top of you and you feel that life's moving crazy? Like, how do you de-stress?
I love to practice a lot of different stuff that I like. For example, the latest hobbies and interests of mine is perfumery. I collect perfumes. I have a lot. I study a lot of perfumery, chemistry, notes, how it's all done, and so forth. I do not plan to make anything of my own, but it's just very interesting topic for me.
I'd love to see it on the shelves, like fragrance by Richard, SFI coming to a shelf.
That would be funny. One other thing, knives. Everything that comes to sharp objects. I have a great collection of knives, kitchen knives, pocket knives, and the epitome of it is when you can sharpen your knives in a very nice way. That when your super steel is shiny as a mirror, when you can place your sharp edge of a knife like this and bring a hair a single hair to it without pressure, and it will cut that hair right on the air. But the greatest stress relief is just sports. So I'm going to gym for a lot of years already. Yeah, and sports, eating, relieving, watching movies, watching TV shows, everything that the normal
I love the
person will
transition,
do
Rich.
is
I
great.
love like how we went from perfume, but you know what? With knives, I've heard there's something satisfactory to sharpening knives. Like there's something that genuinely, I was watching a documentary on it, and like you said about not even putting the pressure on it, and it can just cut a fine hair, and the fact that you go through all that to sharpen it. But Rich, you are a man of many talents. You have got a vast background. I think anyone watching today can take the fact that you are so honest. Like you spoke about things that many would shy away from, and I respect you for that. I respect the fact that Nikki brought us together, and I hope that anyone watching this can know you can go from literally nothing to something without money, you know, without the best resources, without a network. And shout out to your mum and all the mums out there and all the single mums, because I feel like that one common denominator that stuck by you and believed in you was your mum. You know, if she never got you that laptop, who knows, man? Like, you know, you maybe might have found a way, but she was there. But look, Rich, you're an amazing guest. Anyone watching this, if you need any advice in life, sure, I know Rich is a big, busy guy, but if you ever need inspiration or advice on SFI or, you know, just the basics of how to get into an industry like that, please use LinkedIn for the better. And, you know, he's someone that you definitely want to have in your network.
Thank you very much, guys. Hemi, Nikki, you always can put everything in such a nice way that even a guy like me can sound like such a great, perfect SFI expert, which I am not. And last advice to everyone, do not be afraid to fail. Fail with dignity. I have failed throughout my career. I have made some bad technical decisions. I tried to make it up for it, and I learned from it, and I will never make it again. So you will never be perfect, whatever you do. You will, especially when you are facing such hard and demanding um, needs, requirements, and pressure from other side where you work. Um, you will never be perfect at everything. So just do your stuff, try to be good and the best at what you're doing, fail sometimes, and learn from what you're failing, from your mistake. It will prevent you from doing that anymore in the future if you are doing that in the right way. So I'm also not perfect, but it's the way we are, everyone. So thank you very much, guys. I really appreciate you having me here. I was very excited from the start. I was a bit nervous when Nikki has proposed that. I wasn't expecting this, but very excited. Amazing to be here, and so much respect to you guys for what you're doing for the community. Just hands down, no one does it. You are doing that, so you're great.
I feel like after this though, Rich, we need to see a Richard Slough podcast of his own. Like I think people would tune into you every week because you have got some facets of your life that are just so interesting. I could sit with you over a whiskey and a cigar.
Oh, for
and
sure. I would
in
love
London.
that.
That
I
will be
would
the
love
next
that.
episode. Next episode, London, cigar, whiskey. We're gonna go for part 2. But Rich, honestly, from the bottom of our hearts, mate, honestly, you're an inspiration. And I'm not just saying that, like to come from what you have to do what you're doing, and your journey's not over. So I look forward to seeing what you go on and achieve for the next how many years and how the ecosystem evolves. But on that note, I'm going to sign out. Nikki, you can take us out. Rich is out. We're going to see you guys very soon. Peace.